Some of the wives will come up and give me a big hug and, again, say you've saved our marriages and families and those sort of things too.
A lot of times I was wearing headphones and stuff even when I'm in the kitchen cooking with the family around because I couldn't stand the noise. My kids talking and stuff. It was just, and then if I'd get stressed, I would go grab a beer and then go to the garage and should never, reload and drink beer, but I would reload shells or woodwork. Or I don't do that now.
Hey team, Jim Cripps here with the Charge Forward podcast, coming to you from Hit Lab Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm excited to be back with part 2 with my favorite doctor, Dr. Meighen, and we've got Zade Morgan in the house today. He's a retired Navy SEAL and is doing some fantastic work. In fact, they met through some efforts through a foundation that's helping veterans kind of rebuild their bodies and use regenerative medicines and techniques and therapies in order to improve their life. Zade, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jim. Happy
Absolutely.
to be here, man.
Yeah, man. Well, tell me, how did you meet Dr. Meighen?
So through a foundation, I went to get a procedure called a Stellate Ganglion Block. Flew down to Tampa, met Mike. He gave me a dual-sided Stellate Ganglion Block. Before, I'd had one about 6 months before, and it was just one side, one shot. Didn't see a ton of results, but it helped me enough to where later on, my wife and I went down too, and we each got one, and he kind of explained, how the dual side worked better, and just kind of honestly kind of hit it off, kind of had similar interests, kind of became friends there, and saw some pretty phenomenal results from it.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm involved in a nonprofit that kind of helps veterans and first responders seek kind of treatment outside of the military system, and that's kind of his passion as well. So we just kind of carried this forward, and here we are.
I love it, Dr. Meighen. We're doing a multi-part series here, and I love that when we started talking about it, you were like, I've got some guys that I would love to have a part of this. So, give some people some ideas. They know where you work and that kind of thing, but we haven't talked about the foundation yet. And so give people a little bit of insight into that.
Yeah, so for context, there are multiple foundations across the U.S. that help, special forces and or military members to try to get treatments that may be a little bit outside of the norm and are trying to help enhance mental health, physical health, spiritual health, family health, and a number of things to really help enhance the folks that have fought for us and have kind of laid their lives on the line all the way around. So, past 2 years, I've been working with a foundation that would send us special forces military folks and their spouses or significant others. And basically what we would do is, do a pretty robust lab and or assessment before they came down, kind of getting ideas and thoughts about what their main challenges were, what some of their main difficulties were, but also, some of the things that they felt like they had dialed in, and then trying to help enhance their overall metabolic health, cell health, hormone health, enhancing micronutrients, vitamins, macronutrients, and or finding other things that may be a bit off. With the type of work that all of them do, heavy metals, environmental toxins can be problematic. Gut health is usually something that is a particular problem too, and there's other things as well. But we get them dialed in, at least kind of starting before they came down, make sure there weren't any significant issues or contraindications of doing the procedure, most primarily just looking at bleeding parameters. And then they typically would fly down for 4 days. So they come down the day before. It's a 2-day procedure, and we get no reasons why that is. We do one side one day, one side the other, primarily for safety purposes. And then they fly out usually the following day. So, it has been quite rewarding for myself and or with some of the feedback I've received both from the people that we've treated, some of the spouses, significant others, and even, occasionally from other family members and that sort of thing, because there were some that, had fathers that would come down with their sons, or both of them were in special forces, and some of the things from that standpoint, which was, quite rewarding as far as that goes too. So, what we're doing now is trying to come up with a reasonably robust program to really hit folks in areas that unfortunately are lacking, either through the VA, through TRICARE, or even through just general health population treatments. And, mental health, a big piece from that standpoint. And, it's definitely come and become more to the forefront, but still one of those areas that is still kind of in the shadows or in the dark a little bit, both from a stigma standpoint, but also, to some degree, they don't want to be taken out of active duty, or they don't want to be labeled.
Sure.
And we all understand those type things, even coming from, my standpoint. Every time I renew a license, I'm asked multiple questions in relation to mental health as well. So I kind of understand those pieces, but by the same token, it's also important to understand that if that's not in line, your physical health, your spiritual health, and some of the other things aren't going to function or optimize either.
Yeah.
And, it's definitely an area that, I'm passionate about. I mean, I've been a burnout physician and have dealt with some of those challenges. So feeling like you're always on that rat wheel and unable to get off is kind of a less than happy place and position. Sure. For sure.
Well, and for those out there that don't know, and I'll lump myself into that same category, I've heard about, and we know mutual friends that have had the procedure done, and I may mispronounce it, the stellate ganglia? Is that?
Stellate ganglion. So it is an anatomic region. So what we're primarily treating is the autonomic nervous system. What does that mean? So think of the nervous system pieces that you don't have to think about: gut motility, sweating, pupil dilation, heart rate, blood pressure control, all of those things that are kind of on automatic pilot to some degree, and your body just kind of adjusts, readjusts, depending on the situation and what is presented to it. The downside, almost to all of us, is stress levels are incredibly high for almost everybody. And we have the capability of handling that stress with kind of our sympathetic nervous system, which is kind of our fight or flight nervous system, where it can get us out of danger or help us react very quickly and, reduce some of the potential risk and problems. The downside is a lot of us don't get back down to baseline or equilibrium, so we're always in that hypersensitive, hyper-vigilant state. And it does cause changes to the body where, cortisol levels are elevated, sleep becomes a challenge. It can negatively affect relationships and how you interact with friends, family, colleagues. It can negatively affect your immune system. It can negatively affect your blood sugar control just because your cortisol is out of kilter or out of whack. So it can have cascading effects to the point where it can shorten your life, increase your risk of, things such as suicide or other areas of concern, and, is not conducive to longevity and or a health span.
Yeah. Well, and I think it kind of goes back to that idea of it's not one thing, it's all the things in your life that contribute to either your positive state of being, whether that's mental or physical or emotional or spiritual, you name it. But it's all those spokes that really kind of come together to make the whole person.
Correct. And so, what we're doing with, Zade's foundation, he can get that a little bit more in detail, but there's others too. Some primarily with military focus, some with first responder focus, some even with spouse and or significant other focus. And they're all important. Brianna went into great detail in response to that yesterday. So please look at that podcast as we chat. And she, noted it eloquently and beautifully that the stress permeates kind of throughout everybody in the family, not just the person that is a military member.
That's right.
And, if the women or the significant others, and there's some that are reversed, some the women are the operator and they have male, partners. If they're not treated or they're not empowered or they're not felt to be part of the team, it can cause continuing issues, problems, challenges, difficulties, and eggshell walking and some of the things that have been described before. So
sure,
the beauty, at least, of what we were doing was treating both partners or both parties and really trying to
strengthen the family unit.
Yeah, and have them walk through the interventions in a similar time frame. It was great to support. And the other thing I really focused on was having the partner in the room with them when we were doing it, which was very helpful and powerful too, especially for a lot of support. And you could see, it was interesting too. I mean, you could see the relationships that were pretty positive or looked like both sides were supportive of the other. Then there were some that were, a little strained or a lot strained. And even we got feedback on some of the folks that maybe it seemed a little bit off, that it really seemed to bring them closer and some of the other things too.
Okay.
So.
Nice. Well, Zade, if you will kind of walk us through, not just the procedure that you went through, but give us a little backstory. I mean, I know you were Navy SEAL, just retired, a year ago?
Yeah, January 24.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for your service. We've had quite a number of veterans on the podcast, some special operators as well, and I mean, you guys are just really, there's not a thanks, there's not a handshake, there's not any of those things that can really say the thank you that needs to be said.
It's appreciated. I mean, honestly, it was probably the biggest honor of my life just to serve with the guys I did, and that 20 years I'll cherish forever. So for me specifically, I think a lot of guys, at least the time and frame when I got it, I had a lot of things going on. So you got a 20-year career where you're going from being really at the tip of your game, running, full-on operations overseas, very high level, very capable guys. And you, as an older guy, has kind of been beat up over, you have hundreds of jumps, just dives, been, hit IEDs, wrecked Humvees, I was able to kind of shove that away and just keep charging forward, right, to make it through my career.
I see what you did there.
Right? But really, when you step away from that, your relevance is gone. Your body starts kind of breaking up because you don't need it anymore to that level. And then you have to change careers too.
Your identity is kind of stripped away.
It really is, and I didn't believe it when I heard people tell me that, but it truly did, because it was a hard thing. That giant wheel keeps turning, dude, and you're just holding a spot in it. As soon as you step away, there's 10 guys waiting to get in that spot, and that wheel turns. And I went back to my old team that I spent 15 years there, and I didn't recognize anyone. The troop hut, no one recognized me, and it was kind of a cold shot, So add in the stress of trying to find a different job, and then the other thing is I was home a lot. So before that, I'd be gone at least a couple hundred days a year, if not more. So if you think about it, I didn't really know my family. I was like a suitcase husband where I'd come home, drop my laundry off, play with the kids, go to a football game, turn around and take off for another trip on Monday, and then, deploy or whatever. So I was home with the wife all the time. So we got to know each other again and found out that maybe we didn't get along with certain things. Like, I'm used to running stuff. She's used to run her house. I come in and try to run stuff like I do. And it's her castle. It's
her domain. She's been the one holding it down for the last 20 years.
So like there's, some fights ensue there, and you don't really know how to hang around your kids that well. You're used to being like kind of what we were talking about with the SGV is, every decision you're making at work has big time effects, right? You mess up on that, it could cost someone their life. It could cost a lot of things. So I had a hard time kind of toning that down from where a mess up from a kid isn't the same as somebody putting a breech wrong on the door.
Sure.
right? But I was having a hard time toning that down because I had one way of talking to people. And it was causing a lot of problems. And we are kind of almost at a breaking point where, we were trying some counseling, some other stuff. And believe it or not, that going and getting the SGB just seemed like it just knocked me down from like always being at like a 90% level of alertness down to like just mid-level, So like when you're up that high, you don't have anywhere to go.
Sure.
Right. So it seems like to everybody else, you're blowing your top.
And it's never turning off either.
Right. Just constantly vigilant. You don't even realize it. Right. So any creak in the house, anything like that, you're just, because, the way we worked overseas forever is, we work at night. So a lot of times we're on, quick recalls. So, you a lot of times had 15, 20 minutes to get up, get your gear on, get briefed and go, hit a mission. So just taking, it's a long process kind of stepping away from that and getting back to where you can just kind of live like a normal person. And, what I found with Dr. Michael was just, it was kind of profound, really. I mean, I feel like a whole new person, really.
Nice.
I think I was telling him, we just got like some really nice, dinnerware, right? One of my kids, the boy always breaks stuff, but he knocked this plate over, shatters it. And I just kind of looked at him and was like, oh, well, just a plate, where 6 months before that, I probably would have been like yelling at him.
Yeah.
How can you be so clumsy, that kind of stuff, right? So it's really helped me in that way. And what was the original question, so I can remember where to? You just have backstory. That's it.
Yeah, just a little backstory. Right. We can go all the way back. The thing about this podcast is it is your story. I am just here to facilitate. Cool. So you can go all the way back to growing up in Montana, or when you just joined the military, or what made you decide to want to become a special operator, or we can just talk about from the experience of meeting Dr. Mike and current. It's whatever story you want to tell. All
right. Well, I think I was probably one of the. And I won't really talk about going through like SEAL training and early on. I spent my whole career like pretty much in the global war on terror. Like we fought, seen a lot of injuries, a lot of broken dudes, right? And everyone gets them, right? And I was really against surgery, so the way I've maintained and I was able to like operate for that long without surgery was. I was kind of very interested in biohacking myself and trying to figure out ways to kind of cheat the system and keep going,
Yeah.
So that right there, I'm always willing to be the first guy to try something new. And, luckily having a professional do it for you instead of doing it yourself is the way to go, right?
Sure.
But what I found in the military is, even if the docs and the teams wanted to try to practice regenerative medicine, it doesn't happen because, we don't have time for that. So it's really just a lot of like acute, treatment for pain and injuries with painkillers and anti-inflammatories up to the point where when you get a break off deployment, you'll go get cut on. I'm going to do rehab and then line up again, because the way the cycle works is it's a 2-year cycle. So broken into 6-month blocks. So the first 6 months, they call it professional development. It's kind of when the platoon's coming together. Your old guys leave, your new guys come in. So you get new guys fresh out of selection and training. You have to get them boned up on all your SOPs. You have to get them, comfortable in the platoon, and then you
get everybody acclimated.
Right, and then you have to go actually do real training, because the stuff they learn in SEAL qualification training is just bare minimum to not hurt yourself, right?
Sure.
So it's that 6 month is busy, and then from there you go into a unit level training, and that's where you hit all your core skills as a SEAL, right? So you have your jump block, your combat diving block, your urban assaults block, your CQB, land warfare, mobility. Just it never ends, right? And then after that is like the last 6 months is when you integrate all your assets you'll have. So you get your enablers, like your drone operators. If you're going to be working with special boat team guys, you'll get them in. You might get some Air Force PJs or CCT guys, and your helicopters. If you're going to deploy with a squadron of Blackhawks or the 160th, you'll start getting rotations in with them, getting to know the crews, and then it's off to war.
So it's like an 18-month build-up to your 6-month block of active combat.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. You come home and you get a couple weeks off and you start the whole thing again.
Yeah.
And I did 7 of those
over
the first 20 years.
When we were talking, I had never thought of it this way, but you were saying how with younger guys, I guess the first 6-month block is typically integrating with the team and that kind of thing. And for your older guys, that's when they have their surgeries or try to repair their body to get back into the swing of things after having just come back from a very short break, but just right after having been 6 months of active wartime duty.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and for the most part, the guys do a really good job of trying to eat healthy. We have a really nice gym. We have trainers, great physical therapy, great orthos, those things. But like I said, there's not a lot of time. Unless you're off the rotation, you're not going to hit that very often. And also guys, are pretty bougie about what workouts they're doing, right? You got guys doing Jim Jones or guys doing CrossFit or, some guys like marathoner runners, they want to run. So it's pretty hard to have, group PTs because there's always going to be about half the guys are complaining about what kind of workout you're doing because it's,
right.
They're trying to get big and the other guys are trying to, run. But so we have the assets there. It's just that there's no time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think at that level, you almost expect them to have their own specialty or thing that they want to do because we're not talking about entry-level guys anymore. We're talking about guys who have been there, done that, and they know what works for them. And so that's why they're kind of stuck in whatever mode that they want to be, training or that kind of thing. Yeah. So it's probably hard to convince them otherwise at that point.
Yeah, and then add that to like work hard, play hard is the motto, right? So it's a culture and just that. I think everyone understands what I'm talking about there. So and sleep and stuff is thrown in when you can in the middle there. And so 20 years of that was a lot of fun, but at the end of it, you got a lot of problems that you've just kind of shoved away, physical and otherwise, right? And then there's a lot of guys that aren't able to navigate that quite as well. In fact, a ton. There's a lot of things that we were exposed to, whether it be chemicals or that kind of exposure, or repeated TBI exposure, or just being at that level of alertness. And like you were saying, having that much cortisol and those stress hormones flowing through you all the time starts to kind of weigh on you. And what we see is, including myself, was guys have problems in that, like the last couple of years, and then after they separate or retire, it's really difficult, man. And
everything that you've identified as goes away.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you're mourning the loss of what you were. And especially for men, not that women don't, but we derive pleasure and satisfaction from the hard work that we do that we're successful at, right? And so you go from cranked up to a level 11 for 20 years. I almost liken it because we keep using these automobiles as an analogy, but I think of Navy SEALs and special operators in general almost as jet skis, because nobody runs at half throttle on a jet ski. You're either all the way on or all the way off.
No kidding, right?
And I mean, that's kind of how I see you guys. Having met several special operators and had similar conversations, you're either your body's in quick repair, and then you're right back on, cranked up to 11.
Yeah, and really there's not a lot of time there. So if you get hurt or you try to take a knee in the middle of platoon, you're letting the whole squadron down, or the whole team down. You're letting your guys directly down because you're not going to be there with them. So it causes a lot of guys to, you just push through it, right? And so that was my mentality when I got out as well. I thought I could just, it would adjust itself and I could kind of push through. But unfortunately, I carried a lot of those bad habits kind of with me. But what was eye-opening was, and kind of what got me into this, like especially the foundation, was my last active gig, like in the SEAL teams, was I was a platoon chief, and about 6 months after we came back from deployment, man, one of the best guys in my platoon killed himself.
Oh my God. And
no one saw that coming at all. What happened is his twin brother died from a accidental fentanyl overdose. And he had a pretty rough childhood growing up, so he was never much of a big drinker. He didn't seem to have any of those problems, and he just went to his house and like locked himself away for 3 or 4 days, and everyone just kind of gave him space. Said, hey, just need some time. Well, you know, he drank a couple handles of Jack and then offed himself. And tragically, man. And you know, that was a guy that was really close to me. But before that, there was, you know, a lot of guys that I worked with, because the SEAL teams are pretty small. You know, there's a couple thousand guys on the East Coast, and so, you know most of them. You know most of their families too. So, you know, like a death in combat is one thing, and everyone can kind of understand that. You know, it's expected almost. When suicide or, you know, even training accidents are expected, but suicide is just, it hurts worse, because it's a lot harder on the family. It's hard on the guys. It's a lot harder than losing a guy to combat. And it didn't seem like anything in the system was really addressing that. I mean, you know, we can talk about, you know, 30 a day or whatever, and people can, you know, try to raise awareness for it, but nothing the VA or anybody else was really doing was helping. I mean, there was talks of trying to get some, you know, studies for MDMA or these other things. And then my friend and I, like Jonathan Wilson, who was he started up SEAL Future Foundation beforehand, but so he really cares about that. And that's, we decided that maybe it was something different, you know. So we looked towards like alternative therapies, right? So plant medicine, and then doing things in the outdoors, like just communing with your brothers and unplugging, being outdoors, fishing, hunting, just camping, whatever, right? So another thing I realized, or we both realized pretty quick, was that there's a ton of charities, nonprofits set up specifically for SEALs and Special Forces guys. Well, there's very little for first responders, law enforcement, and even basic, you know, veterans. Really, I hate to say it, but that kid that did like 4 years in the infantry and spent all the time in Afghanistan worrying he's going to die, and then he just gets, you know, canned out of the army, and they're like, good luck, man, go find a job, you know. Go be regular again. Right, you know. And it's hard enough for us, but you think about that. I was selected out of a group that already applied. You know, I was already graduated college before I enlisted in the Navy. And then our culture and everything else, we were always on the offensive, right? We always had the night vision. We had the plan. We were the ones attacking. And it still was scary and hard, right? And those guys were a lot of times in totally different situations where they can't control what's happening to them. They're out on patrol waiting to get ambushed. That's got to be terrifying for them. So we wanted to set up a nonprofit that was going to address problems with law enforcement and like normal veterans. And I hate to say it like that, because I love my veterans, but just the system kind of overlooks, right? So that's where kind of War Tribe came from. And, you know, I'll have to get Gianni in here to explain the logo and the feather, but that was from a medicine journey that he did. And kind of that's really the idea going forward, is where we, you know, after getting the Stellate Ganglion Block with Mike, we talked, because he moved down to this Centner Wellness Foundation, and he talked about wanting to help out vets and first responders, law enforcement, and just so happens to be kind of what we're into too. That's right. And there's not a lot of people doing what he does, nor shows the same level of care, concern. Like, I was kind of blown away when I did my lab with you. I sat down for almost a half an hour with me on the phone, went over each one.
Explain them?
This affects that. This is kind of where you're at here. This is okay. These numbers seem like they're a little high, but they're not, because this is good. And that's the first time I've ever been, you know, had that level of care and treatment, right? So I really felt like, you know, it wasn't just a number getting marched through by a doctor who was just going off the, you know, standard operating procedure. It was really, you know, unique. So we want to figure out a way that we can do that and provide that for guys that maybe don't have that opportunity. If you had the resources that, you know, I was able to go do that because I, you know, my background, right? But talking with a lot of, you know, I worked in the past with a lot of like like FBI guys and SWAT guys. You know, we do a lot of like realistic urban training around the country, and a lot of times like a city like Chicago or Houston will host you. So you get to be friends with these SWAT guys, and of course they always want to, you know, we do CQC together, close quarters combat, you know, test tactics against each other and kind of talk. And, you know, you became pretty good friends with them, and you realize that, you know, well, I do a deployment and I'm gone for 6 months, and during that 6 months is like yeah, you're at war, and you live, sleep, and breathe it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys are, like one of my friends, Ron Hale, who's on the board with War Tribe. He's been a SWAT guy for 30 years in Indianapolis, and he told me how many operations they do in a year, and it blew my mind. And I go and see these guys, and a lot of them were younger than me and looked older than me,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not sleeping, they're not taking care of themselves. They're doing regular police work on top of, sometimes, if it's not a professional SWAT team, they have other SWAT duties. And most times these departments don't have a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
for, care, preventative care, regenerative care for them. And I think it's important. So that's kind of where, the idea behind, our motto, but we want to be inclusive and help
Mm-hmm.
everyone that needs it, right?
Well, I think those guys, like, yes, when you are in a deployment, you're cranked up to 11 and the knob's ripped off. But those guys are constantly trying to figure out whether they're going from 0 to 11, like, throughout the day.
Oh, yeah.
Not that yours doesn't, but you're on high alert when you're in that zone, and they could be in the zone at any time. Not,
Yeah. And, I never believed in post-traumatic,
Mm-hmm.
and I really thought that it was just maybe like, I hate to say it, but maybe like a weaker minded person,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think the most disturbing stuff I saw was when innocent, like, women and children got caught in crossfires,
Mm-hmm.
or something happens and you have to either help them or you're helpless to help them because it's gone,
Right.
And I can picture 4 or 5 of those moments that still burn in my brain where I've saw, a lady behind the door of the breach that got her eyeball blown out,
Mm-hmm.
or a kid, but those guys see that every day,
Mm-hmm.
every damn day. And I don't know how, of course, alcoholism is
Mm-hmm.
huge, alcohol abuse, I should say, not alcoholism, but alcohol abuse, sleeping pill abuse,
divorce.
exactly. And I think, the stellate ganglion block is something that I presented to some SWAT guys,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some DEA guys as well with my day job. We'll get into that. But talking to them, we were telling them about SGBs as a possible solution to some of this stuff, and no one knew what we were talking about.
Mm.
Zero clue. Because when they go in for their talk therapy, they might get put on some antidepressants or something. They might get some talk therapy, but really they're just checking the box. They're
Yep.
quarterly, and
Pat on the back and get back out there.
Yeah. And that's not sustainable,
Mm-hmm.
right? I used to think it was. I think you could fake it till you make it and you'd be fine. But I came so close to, I guess, kind of losing the bubble,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm a lot more passionate now with trying to get in front of that, right? So, and that, I guess, is a good time to get into what INVI stands for, Invisible,
absolutely.
Visible, right? So what we do there is, the name of the company is called INVI, Invisible, Visible. And what we do is we take any major wearable that you can have that tracks biometrics. So the main ones are heart rate variability, and Michael can probably explain a little bit more of that. It's a good sign of, like, overall allostatic load and health, right? It's how much your heart varies, but that's a big marker we look at. We look at the amount of steps you take during a day. If you ever look at Aura or Garmin or Whoop, they take a ton of them, right? And so what we did is we kind of theorized that you could take all those and that could be formulated into a mind score, is what we call it. But really it's a numerical kind of value that we represents, like, where your mental wellness and resilience kind of sits, right? And that was kind of the solution we had to getting in front of some suicides, right? Because almost every time that we've lost a team guy, one of our teammates, there's been things that have happened before that, right? Very rarely is it out of the blue the guy does it, right? So we take those biometric readings and we built a large language machine learning algo that jams all those numbers up, and it creates a personalized trend line for you, right? And we call it your mind score. But we can predict that. So we know, like, what happens to your, if you have say you drink too much over that night or the weekend, your HRV is going to be bad, your sleep's going to be bad. That's going to affect your steps and everything else, right? Well, carry that forward, and then you start really trending down, and that's when we start seeing like mental problems, right? So we get ahead of that to where if you start coming off your trend, the app knows it, and it'll notify you and starts giving you some in-app solutions for maybe fixing your sleep, maybe getting more steps. Maybe it's just going out and like grounding or barefoot. And the cool part is, you know, with those solutions, you can physically see efficacy of what you're doing and how it's affecting your mind score. So you kind of know what works for you and what doesn't, right? And lastly, and kind of what breaks us out of just like a Aura or Whoop or whatever is we, you know, my most important, I should start back. In SEAL training, starting in BUDS, you have a swim buddy. So you don't ever go anywhere without a swim buddy. Even if you, say, get in trouble and have to run to the surf to get wet and sandy, your swim buddy goes with you everywhere, and he has to be within arm's length, right? And so my swim buddy is Jonathan Wilson, and so the guy's been my best friend since. You know, so many room inspections, swims, runs, everything. Well, we pair you up with a peer-to-peer support network that we call a swim buddy. And so it could be anyone. It could be your wife, it could be your best friend, it could be a significant other, it could be your doctor. It doesn't really matter. What happens, though, is when you start trending down, it alerts your swim buddy that, hey, you know, Zade's not doing too well. You might want to check in with him, see what's up. And that stops the normal thing that happens when, you know, if you just call up a random friend and say, hey, Joe, how you doing? The normal answer is, hey, I'm doing great. Because you don't want to tell your buddy I'm not, right? Well, this kind of takes that out of it, because I know that if I'm looking at John's swim number and I've been notified what's going on, I ask him, hey, buddy, how you doing, man? He's like, oh, I'm great. Yeah, no, you're not. Why don't you cut the bullshit, man? Yeah. What have you been doing? What's wrong? Tell me about it. And that's been very effective for us, and so that's kind of where the company was born out of, right? From there, we've gone like leaps and bounds with figuring out how to like secure data, how to warehouse that, track many different modalities, right? So, you know, with that software, you're able to take and like you could physically see someone's biometric numbers change when, like, say, I got my stellate ganglion block. I was kind of blown away. Like a day later, I sent him a screenshot of my sleep numbers because they went from like kind of dog shit to like
decent,
good. Actually, I was like, I got a little crown in my Aura thing. It was pretty amazing, and I apologize for swearing on this.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay. It's real. So, Dr. Mike, from your perspective, I mean, shed some light on this Swim Buddy and the app, the AI, all the things that are coming together for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of as I started doing this type of work, it was one of the things I was like, there's a hole here. In looking kind of where they are before, what happens the couple days they're there, and then also seeing what happens as they return home and get back to life and some of the other things too. So we wanted to get some objective data just to kind of see if it was moving the needle, hopefully in a positive direction, for specific markers or more objective markers. Now, none of these things are perfect as far as the assessment piece, but they're pretty accurate to you. So your data may be different than his, and the numbers may not jive, but your numbers compared to you and his compared to his are pretty good. Sure. So, you know, my goal and thought, and as, you know, Zade came in to do his stuff, we started talking. I was like, yes, that's what we need. So, I mean, my goal would be to probably run data a couple weeks before they would come for treatment. We could do longer, obviously, with AI now. We could probably run it a month and still have some pretty reasonable ways to look at things. And then see what it did day one, see what it did day two, and then probably follow it weekly thereafter. And kind of see where things were, see where improvements have come. Because, you know, there's, even with this, and, you know, we talked a little bit about weight loss yesterday too. Everybody just wants to look at the pound number on the scale. There's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of markers and things that you can look at that can show pretty specific benefits, even though the number may not be changing dramatically. So subjective, very important still, and that's part of their algorithm a little bit too. They have some questions that you have to answer daily. But it also gives us ideas, because I have some people that will come and go, I don't know that it helped me a great deal. And then you start digging a little deeper, and it's like, how's your sleep? Oh, it's much better. I'm getting 7, 8, whereas before I was getting 4 or 5. How are your stress levels? And most of them are going to suggest it's better. Talking relationships and certain other pieces. So I think it at least gives more objective assessment of where things are going. And, I think people can jive with that a little bit and get a better handle on idea. But this maybe is doing some things more so than just, I feel better.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will take some time, and, it's not going to help everybody, unfortunately. But I would say our numbers, just anecdotally, are similar to what the study data shows. About 75 to 85% are going to get some form of benefit, whatever that means to them.
75 to 85% is,
outstanding.
In the world of therapies and treatments, that's huge.
Yeah. And, it's been well studied. One of my colleagues who is in the same field I'm in, is also a former SEAL, has done a lot of work on it, and primarily did it on military members. Most of them were treatment resistant, meaning they had tried multiple things and weren't getting any benefit. So, there are a good number of studies, and this procedure has been done for almost a century. Primarily for pain control initially, and still is, and still works well for that, but definitely has gotten into the neuropsychiatric field over the last 10 to 15 years, and even still, as they'd said, it's still kind of not mainstream, and still a lot of education necessary and that sort of thing from that standpoint as well, but definitely becoming at least a little bit more known, and has some risk associated with it, like anything, but in good hands and that sort of thing. It's a very low risk with I think pretty high reward associated with it as well.
Yeah.
So it's been something I've added that we've talked about regenerative therapies, which I love doing as well. But this probably has worked even better than I anticipated, to be honest with you.
Awesome.
Especially with the feedback given. Talked a little bit about yesterday, and, Zade referencing some of the suicides. I've had a couple guys come up to me, and we have fundraisers, at least for the group we were working with, twice a year. And, 4 or 5 will come up to me and pull me aside and say, I had a gun to my head, or I was pretty damn close until you did that thing, and it really helped me. And some of the wives will come up and give me a big hug, and again, say you've saved our marriages and families, and those sort of things too. And some are but less dramatic, and just saying, oh man, I'm really crushing it. My business is taking off and doing great. I'm able to focus and do the things, or hey, I'm sleeping so well. You forced me to go take vacations and just kind of unplug.
All of those things downstream are massive.
Sure.
Obviously, somebody choosing not to end their life is a huge event, but
for sure,
it's all the things downstream. What happens to their lineage? What happens to their family tree? Kids growing up without a father, all those things. Same thing for a marriage that's saved, or even the guy. You said somebody crushed it in their business. How many lives are affected by that?
Sure.
That guy may own a business.
Hey, may have 100 employees. You're right.
Yeah.
And for sure.
And then the 3 or 4 people at home that depend on that income. So there's massive benefit when you've got something that's improving people's lives to that degree at 75 to 85% efficacy. Wow.
Yeah, no question. And then going back to what he was talking about with what we look at, I tell people that work with me, and this is in my speech, I do optimal, I don't do normal. So if you're coming to see me, you're going to be in the top 2.5%. I don't really care about the other 97.5. I don't want you there.
Yeah.
Not that I'm against those people. That's not my point. But if we're looking at numbers and we're looking at data, I want you to be in that upper quartile,
exceptional
area, and not just, hey, everything looks normal. That doesn't do anything for me.
Go see a regular doctor, you want normal.
Right. And I think it's important to try to educate and kind of give ideas and reasons why you're doing what you're doing, not just do this because I said so.
Yeah.
And to a man and woman, I mean, I've gotten kind of similar feedback, which, makes me feel good, but also I think they're getting a service that they haven't gotten. And unfortunately, they've, I don't want to say been forgotten, but it kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
And then, listen to stories. It kind of reminds me of just looking at professional athletes or NFL guys and that sort of thing. It's like they're going to use you up until you're used up, and then you're out of here. We're going to throw somebody else in there that's younger and probably makes less money. And I'm not saying they don't care, but it just kind of feels that way. You're just going to get used up to the point once you're done, then, hey, good luck.
Yeah.
Sayonara, which is not where we want this to be, which is another reason that, I really think this is a big undertaking, but also I think an incredibly rewarding one. So goals for me is hit as many people as we can, for sure, but also teach other docs or other people ways to do this as well, so we can kind of force multiply it.
Yeah. And
kind of turn around the challenges that we have in the healthcare system. And it's all systems, whether it's VA or insurance or cash or any of the other ones. I mean, it's definitely broken, but there are ways that we can help move it forward, and these are some of the ways that we can make that happen.
Well, and again, I think it goes back to that you've got to be your own advocate, because you've got this fragmented system, or these multi-systems that are fragmented and not optimized to work together, and definitely not optimized for the individual. But we have to just, we're not going to fix that tomorrow. Right. So you got to use each piece for what it's worth in order to get the maximum benefit for you and your family.
For sure.
So, Zade, what are you excited about? I mean, just in talking to you, I mean, dude, you're fired up. Obviously you've changed really who you identify as, because you went from this special operator into now I'm retired, and I've got to learn how to get along with my family, and but you get this procedure done, and it takes the edge off of that, building relationships there, and now you're looking to help other people. Like, what's next?
Yeah, so I mean, this whole thing, especially in the last 6 months, has just kind of given me a lot more white space to do stuff like coach my kids' football team, coach baseball, go and enjoy kind of things, right? So that's kind of where I'm leaning as far as what's next. My career-wise, I'm still passionate about where I'm at. Never worked in tech. I don't really know what I'm doing, and it's my best friend. Because it's a startup, so I'm getting the full gambit of like everything there. Trial by fire. Yeah, it's rewarding, and it's also has its ups and downs. I think I'm just excited to be able to step away from that and actually do those things, like be a dad. I'm really hoping that I, find a way to move everyone back to Montana and, be able to take them out whenever we want, enjoy nature with hunting and fishing, hiking, all these things. So,
be a dad.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
And I felt like before that, there was no room in my life for that. A lot of times I was wearing headphones and stuff, even when I'm in the kitchen cooking with the family around, because I couldn't stand the
noise.
The kids talking and stuff. It was just, and then if I'd get stressed, I would go grab a beer and then go to the garage and should never, reload and drink beer, but I would reload shells or woodwork or do something and just kind of stay away from everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't do that now. It's fun. I'm engaged with them,
cool.
Talking about stuff. I can't believe it took this long, but just recently I had them, we're in a car ride together. I had them listen to Metallica on the way to a football game.
Nice. Well, on that note, Dr. Mike, you enjoyed a pretty good concert last night.
I did. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I came, along with seeing some friends and talking with you. And it's been a great week, and I got the second round tomorrow night with them. So
good. So how was Metallica last night?
Outstanding as usual. They're fun. I mean, if you know their backstory, they've had issues, traumas, alcoholisms, death of a band member. I mean, a number of things that a lot of us has dealt with as well, but they've kind of forged a bond and worked through some of the issues, and it looks like they're having fun at this stage. I mean, they're really enjoying themselves, and very engaged with the crowd, and really just embracing their 40 plus years in the business, and still sound great, still highly energetic, and really just a lot of fun. I love live music. It's just one of the things that kind of lights me up a great deal. You can jump around like an idiot, and you got 20 to 40,000 people doing the same things, and just having a good time. And the sound, the music. I mean, there's a lot of angst in the music, and some things they've dealt with, including suicide and some other things too. But it's a lot of fun to me. So, and end of the month, my daughter and I are going in Charlotte as well. So looking forward to that.
Okay.
She's had some health related challenges for a number of years, and has really worked hard in kind of coming out of that and getting ready to get back and finish her undergraduate degree starting this fall, and kind of reintegrating herself into society, where she's been kind of out for the last 6 to 8 years, which has been very difficult, both as a parent and as a health provider. And there's been difficulties all the way around with family and that sort, but I carried around a lot of burdens in relation to some of the things that happened in relation to our relationship, her care, some of the other things too, and I've done a lot of work and kind of unburdening that, and I think she sensed it, and our relationship's tons better at this stage. So
that's great.
And same thing with my son and some of the other folks too. But so really excited to spend some time with her, and she's a big fan of older classic type rock, so that'll be fun as well. So, but I mean, it's been a great week so far, and I've really enjoyed it. I lived here 2020, 2021. We met here, and a few other folks. I really enjoy this area. It's one of my favorite spots for sure. You got your city time, and you also could go get lost in nature pretty quickly too, which is nice. And you can breathe and just feel and that sort of thing. I really like Tennessee a great deal. So it's been great coming back, and then getting to hang with Zade and yourself and those things. I mean, just meeting him, the way I describe it is like, if you close your eyes and think Navy SEAL, then open them, there you are.
Here he sits.
Yep. But he's just a genuine, nice person, and really a big heart. And I see that in pretty much everything I come in everybody I come in contact with that we worked at from a military standpoint. They're really, I could probably count on one hand the number of difficult people I've dealt with. And like I said, we treated well over 800 people.
That's amazing.
And
the downstream effects for 800 individuals is just massive.
And it's incredibly rewarding, and I love the fact that he's wanting to give back and come up with solutions for challenges that he and his business partner and fellow SEAL have seen. And there's other folks that we have in our environment that also have been in the military, and some other things that are also physicians that we lean on as well, and just trying to get ideas on how best to optimize and or enhance people's lives such that they can enjoy and live how they would like to live. So
should tell you a little bit before we end about the kind of the plan of how it's going to come together and fly. That's kind of something I'm excited about.
I love it. Yeah,
I haven't thrown this idea out yet because I was trying to figure out the right way, but we want to do like 10 to 20 people a week, right? This is the new addition because I was adding up all the hotel costs. I want to get a team house that's there that the guys come in and out of, right? That's a staple, like solid there, where not only when they're there, right, we give them classes on like have a dietitian come in, Have a supplement expert come in, talk to them about like do's and don'ts. Same thing with diet, maybe some exercise. Get someone to come in and teach some like different like vinyasa yoga or something to meditation things. Have, Layla Centner has a farm and homestead where she raises like bison and beef. So like have really good food there. Just kind of have a nice like communal spot where, it doesn't matter if it's a first responder, veteran, Navy SEAL, whoever, all the same dudes. They can kind of sit there and like, it kind of gives them a look at like what a clean, healthy lifestyle would be like. And hopefully they get a support network out of that. But if you add all those guys up, like 20 guys a week, that's 400 and some dudes a year that could come through there, and they're getting everything that Dr. Michael can offer as far as like we're testing for heavy metals. They're getting an a big blood panel. They're getting tailored care to them to kind of help bring them out. On top of that, we're going to knock down their alert level or whatever you want to call it, their bio SGB. And that's kind of I think that's the beginning process of them, like hopefully transforming themselves. And because that's really the beginning, like that's the beginnings of like recovering, as you start feeling good about yourself because you can see results. You're feeling healthier. You're less pain because you're less inflamed. But a lot of times, people don't know how to take supplements or what a good diet looks like. You might think you're eating healthy and you're not.
Sure.
And the brotherhood part is huge. It's, we want to track these guys from a couple weeks in to get like a baseline, and then really want to keep track of them for, another year. And, and possibly offer, like plant medicine to the guys that really need that,
Sure.
Because that's a definite, that can help a lot,
And how does somebody, this foundation, how does somebody get involved? How does somebody donate? What does that look like? If there's somebody out there that feels compelled after hearing the story and wants to help, how do they get involved?
That's great. You can come to our website, wartribe.org, and you can donate there. We were going to do a fundraiser. Actually, we were talking about Nashville this year, so I'll make sure and let you know.
Okay. Yeah.
That Nashville or Fredericksburg, Texas.
Okay.
The Centner Foundation are the main people who are supporting this idea. That's kind of about it for right now. We're fairly new. We're only a couple years old.
Yeah.
And we've only been able to help maybe like 50 or 60 guys so far with our stuff, but
that's ramping up.
It's going to ramp up big time. So really what I'd want to talk to, your listeners that know a first responder, a law enforcement guy, or a vet who seems like they could use something like that, please have them reach out to the website.
Yeah.
We'll get their name down, get their information, and then when we get this program rolling, even if, it's a emergent case or something where someone needs some help now, we have we know, a lot of people in the space that we can direct them to until we're ready to start getting them,
Hang on, you mean Navy SEALs are resourceful? I have no doubt that if somebody called, you guys would absolutely figure it out if it was an urgent need. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. So, obviously a giant passion of both of ours. So,
yeah.
Please, if you know someone or you are that guy, please reach out to us. We'll get you.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, somebody out there right now is thinking that's for somebody else. That's not for me. I'm not that bad off. They've grown accustomed to shaking it off, walking it off, however you want to say it. What would you tell them?
If people are telling you that or asking how you're doing, and maybe you think it, you probably are. Like by the time that you realize, that maybe you're not as good as you think you are, and maybe you can't handle on your own. Hopefully, that's just not you bouncing off the bottom. You're the rock bouncing off the bottom. That's normally when people get it together, and a lot of times there's already been a ton of damage done to your family, your personal life. Hopefully, it's nothing irreversible or permanent like suicide, but as those things seem to snowball, man, a lot of times on the way down, that's it seems hopeless. Your emotion regulation's messed up. Another thing that we didn't really talk about much was hormone regulation. Repeated exposure to TBI affects your pituitary gland, which is kind of the master computer of your whole system. And I was adding up a lot of the TBI exposures I had for when I was, going through my VA, Veterans Administration stuff, and I'm like thousands of exposures, and we wear blast gauges that measures, the blast exposure, but there's not someone that comes around and like reads them and says, "Hey, you've had too many blast exposures. Maybe you should sit it out for a minute."
Well, it's chronic exposure to it.
Yeah,
it's repetitive.
Yeah,
repetitive.
Yeah, and even standing in an indoor shooting range, shooting unsuppressed next to people. You think about 30 or 40 people lined up next to each other shooting 10.5-inch M4s without suppressors. Those muzzle brakes on those shoot all the air pressure out. You walk out of that with a headache.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I knew that I had a couple. I got really close to a breaching charge in Iraq, rung my bell. Same night we hit an IED. Next night RPG against the wall next to you. And that gave me a headache, and I was weird, and I knew I was kind of off, and I knew I had my bell rung. But then one of the last things I did in the Navy was I was the the senior chief at breaching school, like our explosive entry school. And we have a kill house that's 2 stories, and it's metal. It has to be because we use shotguns, explosive breaching. We put metal doors in, use torches. It's everything. But even the shotguns and flashbangs going off in that thing, they reverberate and echo. And it didn't take long, and I was going home every night with feeling sick to my stomach with a migraine.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sleep, and it was starting to mess with me. And then I had guys coming forward that were younger in their 20s and 30s that we ended up sending to NICO, which is the National Intrepid Center of Excellence, which is really like where they go to send guys to diagnose and try to treat brain injuries. We're sending 30-year-old E6s to NICO that they've only been a SEAL for 7 or 8 years, but they've had so many TBI exposures that it's starting to hit them. And then you test the guy's testosterone, and he should have an 800 or 700 because he looks like a physical specimen, but he's down in the 200s. And so no wonder the guy's depressed.
Yeah.
Right? His testosterone sucks. He's not recovering like he should. He's not sleeping. So what's he doing? He's like drinking Monsters all day to stay on point, and then he's drinking Jack Daniels until he falls asleep.
Yeah.
And it's just not the way, it should be. And you're never going to, cultural changes take a lot. And like changing that kill house is hard. And the Navy's looking at it, right? But it's a multi-million-dollar kill house. You can't put linings on the wall that absorb the sound because it's a fire hazard. And also, you blow something up next to it, you can't have stuff that could fly off the wall and fly down the hallway and hit people.
Or even just the fact that you need to train in that real situation that is going to be that loud and that chaotic, because when you're actually in it for life and death, you better be used to it. It's just, it's ugly, but coming up with a better solution is not easy.
Exactly. So we used to try to see how close we could get to the explosives.
Wow.
Like, there's the way the explosive art, this is just sidebar, nothing to do with a lot except for just how foolish we were.
Yeah.
But if you understand how the explosive kind of blast wave propagates, it comes out in like an arc, like a fan. And then if there's something in front of it, they'll bounce, right? So hallways are pretty gnarly, or corners of rooms, because you'll get like a compounding like effect of these colliding shock waves. But in the right situation, you can lay a hefty charge on that door, and if there's not a wall in front of me, I could stand 1.5 feet away from it, and the blast goes out and around you, which is great if you get it right. But if you get it wrong, it'll blow your nods out or something, God. So that culture, I think, is changing, especially this new generation of guys doesn't seem to be quite as gnarly, but it still doesn't matter because you have so many thousands of GWAT veterans now, and a lot of the people that served in the Marine Corps, Army, whatever, are now our police officers. So you took a guy who probably was exposed to a lot of stuff in the military, put him right over into, the law enforcement, and then tack on another 10 or 15 years of an extremely stressful job. And then by the time they're, about my age in their mid-40s or even, younger, older, whatever, but it's kind kind of comes to a head every time, man. It seems like it. And, we want to provide resources for them that they're not going to see. You don't get that level of treatment, not even close at the VA. You're a number there, and you're getting run through a machine by probably a doctor who, has a giant book of patients that they have to see that day.
Yeah.
Right. And they're also limited, like Dr. Michael was saying, by like what they can and can't do. Mm-hmm. They have a list of like A, then you get B, and that's it. So.
Well, I love what you guys are doing. And I love the fact that it's very unselfish from the standpoint of you didn't have to look outside and go, we should be including, the veterans that weren't special operators, and you didn't have to look outward and go, we should also be treating these first responders. So I love that it's unselfish in that way, that it's like, look, how do we help all the people that have dealt with this same type of situation or something similar and just make the world a better place?
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's fantastic. Well, thank you both for coming in. Thank you for spending some time with us. And team, especially if you'd like to donate, if you'd like to be involved, that website is going to be wartribe.org to help support this fantastic work that they're doing. Dr. Mike's group at Centner Foundation, and then also War Tribe, just working together in order to bring a lot of harmony to these special operators, first responders, veterans that have risked their lives protecting our freedoms and our ability to make the choices. And so what a great way to kind of give back and to be supporting them. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and guys, thank you for coming in and sharing.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us, Jim.
I can't wait to have you guys on next year.
That'd be great.
And let's talk about just how many lives have been changed.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's just in going to the cumulative brain trauma. I went to a course last weekend, and Dr. Mark Gordon, who is big into the brain injury space, feels that PTSD is the direct result of either an acute brain injury or cumulative brain trauma.
Yeah.
So going back to what Zade was talking about, where he thought, I'm not sure that that's really a thing, or I don't want to say that I have that. I think it's direct result. And even if you look at people that have been incarcerated, almost all of them have had some type of brain injury, brain trauma, or some type of trauma in their past that, has kind of made them challenge as far as their vigilance or their ability to kind of control their emotions and some of the other things too. So it's real, and don't ignore it. And at worst, reach out to somebody. Yeah. If it's family, if it's friends, if it's, clergy, if it's physician, it doesn't matter. Bree brought up a great topic yesterday in relation to the fact that if you talk to somebody for 8 minutes, your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and you start calming down. Yeah.
Well, I love that phrase. She said whether it was with her spouse or with her loved one or anybody, she could call and just say, I need 8 minutes, and they would know what she was talking about. And
correct.
I think that's just a great policy to put in place with everybody that you know.
Absolutely.
You never know, military service or not, you never know who might need that 8 minutes.
We're all going through stuff, and we need to understand that. And, don't be afraid to lean on your friends. They understand. If they're your friends, they're going to lean on you too. Yeah. They're going to, you're going to need each other at some point. So we've got all these neat tools, and those are great, but simple measures, just don't try to do it alone.
That's right.
I think those are kind of big keys and big take homes from that standpoint.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Mike, Zade, thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's been fantastic.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Team, continue to check out the series. Again, this 4-part series with Dr. Mike, and be looking for the episode with William Arnold, gentleman that was falsely imprisoned for 7 years. I'll guarantee you some of the things that Dr. Mike was talking about apply in that situation as well. That episode will be coming out soon. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Charge Forward podcast. I hope this was the message you needed. I hope you can take some pieces from this conversation and improve your life and those around you. Until next time, I'm Jim Cripps with the Charge Forward podcast. Take care. Team, is Jim Cripps here with the Charge Forward podcast. I just want to tell you I love you. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you for subscribing and sharing the Charge Forward podcast with people you know and you love, because that's what we're here for. We are here to share the amazing stories, the things that people have been through, the ways that they were able to improve their life, so that you can take little nuggets from theirs and help improve your story and be better tomorrow than you were today. I hope that this is the tool you needed at the right time, and that you find value in the amazing guests that we bring each and every week. Thanks so much, and don't forget, new episodes drop every Thursday.